Have you ever stopped to think about the world we live in? It's like we've all inherited this massive, complex house. We didn't design it, but its architecture shapes everything we do, from how we're governed to how our economy works. So today, we're going to take a look at the blueprints of this modern world. We'll see what's holding up and where the cracks are starting to show.
And this quote from Einstein, it absolutely nails the central theme for our journey today. It gets at this huge paradox. The very same thinking that built our incredible modern world seems totally incapable of fixing the problems it's created. It's a call, really, to look at the very foundations of our world from a completely different angle.
Okay, just picture this for a second. It's 1829. For the first time in human history, we're moving faster than any animal on Earth. That whistle from the first steam locomotive, that wasn't just a sound. It was the scream of a brand new age, an era of unbelievable progress, of just shattering old limits. But, and this is the key thing we're going to explore, every single one of these amazing breakthroughs also carried the seed of its own undoing.
All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we'll get a big picture view of modernity's architecture. Then, we're going to zoom in and inspect its four main pillars: how we govern, our economy, science, and how we find meaning. And finally, we'll look at the container, the house itself, that's holding it all together.
So, let's stick with that metaphor of our civilization as a giant house, right? We live in it every single day, but we almost never stop to check the foundations. Well, this house is held up by four massive pillars, and each one was designed to solve a really fundamental problem of human society. And here they are. First, governance, which is supposed to protect us from tyranny and chaos. Then, the economy, our answer to scarcity. Science, our incredible tool for fighting ignorance. And finally, our systems of ethics and meaning. You know, the stuff that guides our moral compass. At their best, these were all about emancipation, about freeing us. But something's gone wrong. And a really important concept to get our heads around this is what's called a self-terminating solution. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. It's a system that works brilliantly at a certain scale, but when you blow it up to a global level, it starts creating these catastrophic side effects. It actually starts causing the very problems it was designed to prevent.
Okay, so let's dig into our first pillar and see exactly how this plays out in the real world. Governance. I mean, the shift from the divine right of kings to power to the people, that was a world-changing revolution, right? But what's happened to that dream now?
Yeah, the difference here is just stark. On one side, you have this incredible promise. People are sovereign, not kings. Government rules by our consent. But then you look at the reality today. Short election cycles that just reward catchy slogans over actual long-term planning. A system where big money can completely warp who gets represented. The promise and the peril, side by side.
And if you want a really sobering piece of data on this, look no further. This 2014 study by Gillens and Page found that in the US, what the average citizen wants has, get this, a statistically negligible effect on policy, basically zero. Instead, policy follows what economic elites and powerful interest groups want. You can really see that democratic dream kind of drifting away.
You know, the political theorist Sheldon Wolin actually gave this a name: managed democracy. It's where we still have all the rituals of democracy, elections, debates, the whole show, but underneath, the real power has been captured. And, as that happens, the public just gets more and more disengaged. The form is still there, but the substance, it's been hollowed out.
All right, let's shift gears to our second pillar, the economy. Now, the market economy has been this unbelievable engine of innovation and wealth, no doubt about it. But this engine has a design flaw, a feature that's now threatening to burn the very ground it's built on.
I mean, the upside was, and still is, spectacular. Markets really did lift billions out of extreme poverty. But the danger is baked right into its code. Our money system is fundamentally based on debt, which means the economy has to grow forever just to avoid collapsing. It's not an option, it's a structural requirement. And our main way of measuring success, GDP, actually goes up after a hurricane or an oil spill. It just measures activity, not our actual well-being.
In this chart, it shows you one of the key results of that system in action. According to Oxfam, in the early 2020s, the richest 1%, just 1%, captured almost 2/3 of all new wealth that was created. Now, this isn't some bug in the system. Many argue it's an emergent property, a natural outcome of a system where money makes money faster than people can earn it.
So how does this engine keep running without blowing up? Well, a big part of it is externalizing costs. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. The price you pay for something doesn't include all its real costs. The pollution, the waste, the human suffering in the supply chain, all of that gets pushed off the company's balance sheet and onto the rest of us, onto the planet. It shows up as sick kids, polluted rivers, and a climate in chaos.
Okay, on to our last two pillars, and we're going to look at these two together: science and our systems of ethics and meaning. Both have given us so much, but they're both now facing the same fundamental problem: fragmentation, a loss of the whole picture.
You know, science gave us the incredible power to understand the atom, but in the process, we sometimes forgot how to see the whole forest. Its main tool, reductionism, is amazing at taking things apart to see how they work, but it really struggles to understand how complex living systems like an ecosystem or a society all fit together. So now we're drowning in these separate silos of specialized knowledge, and we've lost the ability to synthesize it all into actual wisdom.
And as our scientific view of the world fragmented, so did our sources of shared meaning, those big cultural stories that used to bind us together and give us a sense of shared purpose. They started to fade. And you know, nature hates a vacuum. So what rushed in to fill that space? The most powerful force in our economic engine: consumerism. It tells you who you are based on what you buy, but it offers zero moral guidance, no vision for the future.
So we've looked at the pillars. Now let's look at the house itself. The container holding all of this up is the nation-state. And look, it was a brilliant idea back in 1648, but here in the 21st century, that container is starting to spring some serious leaks.
For more than 300 years, the nation-state system, which was born out of the Treaty of Westphalia, was basically the perfect container. It created this hard shell, clear borders where things like democracy and capitalism could grow. If a problem popped up inside your borders, your government could, in theory, deal with it. It was a design that was perfectly suited for its time.
But that design is breaking down now because our biggest problems, they just don't care about borders. Think about it. Ecologically, carbon pumped into the air in one country melts glaciers in another. The atmosphere doesn't have a passport. Economically, a crisis on Wall Street vaporizes savings in Iceland. Capital moves way faster than regulators can. And disinformation from one place can destabilize the politics of another. And with new tech like AI, it's developed in one city and it reshapes jobs everywhere, all at once.
And this leads us into what some call the Westphalian trap. Here's the problem. Our whole system is designed for every nation to compete for its own short-term advantage. But our biggest, scariest challenges, climate change, AI safety, you name it, they demand long-term global cooperation. Our political architecture is just fundamentally mismatched with the world we actually live in.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. Our institutions aren't evil. They're not even necessarily failures. They're just legacy systems. They're like an old, outdated operating system trying to run today's incredibly complex software. The problem isn't malice, it's a deep structural misalignment between the world we've created and the tools we've inherited to run it.
You know, the story of modernity was really a story of emancipation, of freedom from things. Freedom from kings, freedom from dogma, freedom from scarcity. But as this slide gets at, that kind of freedom without an equal sense of integration and responsibility can just lead to fragmentation and chaos. So maybe the challenge now isn't just about getting more freedom, but about finding a wiser freedom, one that brilliantly integrates our individual liberty with our inescapable interdependence.
And that really leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful thought. None of this stuff is set in stone. Democracy, capitalism, the nation-state, these aren't laws of nature like gravity. They are human designs. They're things we made up. And that means what was designed by us can be redesigned by us. So the real question for our time isn't just about patching up the old architecture anymore. It's about what we need to build next. What should we design?